Today, we're going to tackle a single story that spans 13.8 billion years. It's the story of how our universe went from being unbelievably simple to, well, staggeringly complex. And, more importantly, what that means for us, right here, right now. So, let's dive in. So let's kick things off with a big question. What could you, the internet, and a star possibly have in common? I mean, they seem about as different as you can get, right? But believe it or not, they're all part of the exact same universal process, the relentless growth of complexity. And by the end of this, you're going to see exactly how they're all connected. All right, so first things first. Before we can start climbing this, let's call it a staircase of complexity, we really need to get a grip on what it is we're actually talking about. What is this thing we call complexity? You know, we all kind of get what's complex, right? A bustling city with all its millions of moving parts. Or even something tiny, like an E. coli bacterium, with its billions of perfectly placed molecules. We know it when we see it. But here's the thing. Scientifically, there's no single, universally agreed upon definition. It's a concept we absolutely can't live without, but it's incredibly tricky to pin down. So, to get a handle on it for our story, we're going to need a tool, a way to measure it. And this is it, free energy rate density. Now I know, that sounds super technical, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's basically a measure of how much energy is flowing through a gram of something every single second. The more energy a system needs just to keep itself going, the more complex we say it is. This is going to be our ruler for the next 13.8 billion years. And check this out, this really drives the point home. A star, like our sun, is just massive, right? But the energy density, the flow of energy per gram, is actually pretty low. A plant needs a way denser flow of energy to stay alive. And modern human society, it's literally off the charts. It needs the most concentrated energy flows we know of just to keep from falling apart. So the takeaway here is crucial. As complexity goes up, so does the need for dense, reliable energy. Okay, let's take that first step up the staircase. We're going all the way back to the beginning to see how the simplest forms of complexity somehow managed to emerge from, well, almost nothing. Think about it. Right after the Big Bang, the universe was almost perfectly uniform. It was just this simple, hot, boring mist of hydrogen and helium. Now, you might have heard of the second law of thermodynamics, which says that things tend towards disorder, towards simplicity. So how in the world did anything more interesting ever appear? Well, the secret is that the universe wasn't perfectly smooth. There were these teeny tiny quantum wiggles that made some spots just a little bit denser than others. And that was all gravity needed. It started pulling matter into these denser spots, creating massive clumps. Eventually, the pressure and heat got so intense that, boom, they ignited the first stars. These were the universe's very first factories for building complexity. Now, for the next giant leap. We're moving from predictable physical systems, like stars, to something much, much weirder. Systems whose parts can adapt and almost seem to have a mind of their own. Think about the difference here. The atoms in a star? Yeah, it's complex, for sure, but they're well-behaved. They follow predictable rules. But now think about the parts of a complex adaptive system, like animals in an ecosystem, or stockbrokers on Wall Street. Their individual behavior is wildly unpredictable. This isn't just another step up, it's a whole new ballgame. So how on earth do these systems work? Well, a huge part of the answer is something called a feedback loop. This is just a process where the output of a system circles back and influences its own behavior. Feedback loops are the real engines of change, or stability, in every adaptive system you can think of. And really, they come in two main flavors. You've got negative feedback, which is all about stability. Think of a thermostat in your house. It keeps the temperature from getting too hot or too cold. It keeps things just right. But then you have positive feedback. And this stuff is amplified. Ice means the dark ocean absorbs more sunlight, which means more heat, which means, you guessed it, even less ice. This can push a system right over a tipping point. Okay, let's get to the next level, because this is where our story really, really kicks into high gear. We're about to see what makes human complexity so unbelievably unique and so powerful. So what is our species' superpower? It all comes down to one thing: collective learning. We are, as far as we know, the only species on Earth that can gather and build upon information from one generation to the next. And how do we do it? Through symbolic language. It lets us share huge, precise amounts of information, not just about what's in front of us, but about the past, the future, even about things that are completely imaginary. And this created the most powerful positive feedback loop this planet has ever seen. Just look at this cycle. Better language allows for more shared information. More shared information leads to better ways to get resources from our environment. More resources can support larger, denser populations. And what do you get with larger populations? More potential innovators, more brains working on problems, which feeds right back into creating more shared information. It's an engine of exponential change. And that engine has brought us right here, to today, to the very top of the staircase, a new geological epoch that is defined entirely by our impact, the Anthropocene. Just look at this number. This represents what's called the Great Acceleration. In a single century, just the 20th century, our species' energy use exploded, increasing by a factor of 16. The flows of energy we now manage are on a geological scale. We are a force of nature.
But here's the catch, and it is a big one. By reaching this pinnacle of complexity, we have also brought ourselves to a pinnacle of fragility. Why? Well, remember what we said at the beginning. The more complex a system gets, the denser and more stable its energy flows need to be. Our global society is incredibly powerful, yeah, but it's also incredibly dependent on those massive energy flows not getting disrupted.
So, where do we go from here? The sources we're drawing from basically lay out four broad possibilities. We could hope for a technological miracle, some new energy source that lets us keep going as we are, or a green tech miracle, where we figure out how to live within our means without losing all this complexity. There's also what's called a creative descent, a kind of managed, voluntary simplification of society. Or, of course, there's the last one, collapse.
You know, even when we think about collapse, there's a bigger cosmic perspective to keep in mind. In the grand story of the universe, breakdown isn't always the end. The destruction of one complex system often provides the raw material for the next one to be built. I mean, the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs was pretty bad for them, but it opened the door for mammals, for us, to thrive. It's a cycle of creative destruction.
Which leaves us with the ultimate question for our time, for the Anthropocene. We have proven beyond any doubt that we are smart enough, that we are intelligent enough to build a civilization of almost unimaginable complexity. The question is, are we wise enough to manage the fragility that comes with it? That right there is the challenge of our era.